All right, hello all and welcome to Survivor Game Show Network, Survivor Exile Island's third exit interview. I am one of the hosts, Ian Moorhead, along again with my co-host Morgan Jackson and interview specialist Denny. Tonight we are joined happily by our third boot of the season, Bill McGrath.
I'm going to disagree with the whole happily part, but
you're just a nice guy, Bill. It's always good.
I was going to say, I'm not too happy to see him here this early.
I know, but...
Yeah, I saw your face, Bill. We don't mean that way. We just mean it's always a pleasure chatting with you.
Oh, I know.
You look very handsome tonight.
As always.
Oh, well, thank you. You all look lovely too.
Well, thanks. So let's dive right in. How did you hear about this game and what made you apply?
I have been following specialists for probably about 2-3 years now, maybe back to the intern days. And always loved the channel, had started playing orgs a couple of months before and saw the application to this and said, oh, I want to play with these people.
Nice. So we know you've played orgs before. Do you ever get nervous going into a game, or you're just there to have a good time?
Maybe a little nervous, but it's a game. And so, you know, you're there as much to meet the people and build some relationships as you are to win.
So the first night you get on the Zoom, you see everyone, and then you find out your tribes. What were your first impressions of your tribe?
I was really, I think, pretty happy about it. I was a little sus because I had watched Yasawa Island. Did I say that right? Is it Yasawa?
Yes.
And so, and I'd already known also from watching Specialists that Lauren hosted trivia nights and a bunch of other stuff. And I knew Austin had come in third. And so when they first popped up on the screen, I figured, okay, they're production, they're modding, there's something. And then all of the other folks who I recognized, their roles were identified. And I figured, yeah, Jeremy, you guys, McKenna, whoever. And then when we get down to who's playing, Lauren and Austin are both left. Like, okay, this is interesting. So I wasn't quite sure about that. I mean, everyone else I met, I really liked. I didn't get, probably one of my big mistakes is that I did not get to spend time on Zoom early on with people as much as I would like, but I went, and probably the first person I reached out to was Lauren. And I basically said, I know who you are, but I'm not going to tell anybody. And I thought we had bonded a little over that, but apparently not. But no, as I got to talk to folks, I really liked everyone. I definitely hit it off with Greg early on. We're both East Coast, we're both gay, we had a lot of similarities. And so we talked a lot. Apparently not as much as he was talking to some other people, but we had a bunch of long conversations. I felt really good with him. And then, you know, it from there, we had both hooked up with Michael too. So I thought that was my three. And I probably rode with that a little too long.
Got it. Well, moving into the first challenge, I want to talk about that because you did the puzzle portion with Victoria. You referred to it as a hot mess. You said you tried to convince her that her approach was wrong, but she was not giving in to you. She was like, "No, this is how it is." Why did you not push a little harder or just say, "You know what? I'm going to let her do her own thing, but I think it's this way, so I'm going to do it this way"?
Yeah, I think I pushed pretty damn hard. And short of either beginning to yell and drop curses, which actually I'm very good at, so I wanted to restrain myself there. I'm not sure how much tougher I should have get. Looking back, what I should have done is what Greg did on the puzzle for the next challenge, which when there were too many fingers in the pot, just said, back off, let me do it. But it never even dawned on me to just kind of let her crash and burn alone. Just because, again, I was more there to keep us safe than to cover my own ass. Although immediately after the tribal or the challenge was over, I definitely went out and told everyone what had happened. And I mean, I love Victoria. It was just, and she's a very smart woman and, very stubborn. And I like to think I'm smart, but I'm also very stubborn. And we just didn't come to a resolution there.
Yeah, I know. I was just thinking, like, if it had been me and I was set thinking it was one way and the person was set in their own way, I think I just would have tried figuring it out on my own. But I mean, I don't know. I think you guys wouldn't have had time anyway, but you never know.
You never know.
You could
right. And I kept, love you, Victoria. I kept trying to think about doing that and put down the letters. And then she'd start talking into my ear again about how it was a cryptogram. And so I just couldn't focus. But yeah, shit happens.
Sure does. Thoughts on the Exile twist and Lauren from your tribe being the first one to be chosen to go?
Yeah, I've always hated Exile on the show, and this has done nothing to change my opinion. Yeah, once it popped up, it was definitely a surprise. I immediately thought about how, that was ultimately going to screw numbers and give the other side the opportunity to screw with your vote by taking someone out of the mix. I had hoped it would be me, because part of the strategy, or one strategy in Exile, is always to pick off whoever is perceived as the weakest person. As the old guy, that tends to be an early snap judgment that usually doesn't work to my benefit. I hoped it was going to work to my benefit here, where they'd say, let's ship off the old guy, so they're stuck with him for another week. When it was Lauren, I definitely got more sus, and I'm not sure from the edit we saw how Lauren as the choice came about, but my suspicion was that Austin would have been completely behind that in terms of getting her to safety because of the Yasawa Island relationship.
No, the decision actually in the edit, and that's what happened, was it was basically a unanimous agreement, but Mackenzie was the first person to say her name. Yeah, I mean, I agree.
I can see that too.
Yeah, Mackenzie was the first person. It was only because she bombed the challenge, which she absolutely did. So.
Yeah.
And she had started talking about Gaby when she was done with her portion of the challenge too. So she had kind of put herself out there as somebody who might be getting votes. So I think the Alexa tribe jumped on that.
Okay, so the theory was the same. It's just they chose her rather than me as the person you might want to save from first vote. Yeah, the Gaby thing was kind of a weird little curveball. I know Gaby from other orgs.
Yeah, she told us.
So I was hoping that she'd be able to stay long enough. So yeah, I was surprised with sort of the vehemence that everyone went after her for that. But yeah, it is what it is, especially since, as I understand it, she left prior to the challenge being over. Okay, that's kiss of death. If you're gonna, I couldn't even imagine playing 2 games at the same time. But if you're gonna do that, you gotta manage your time a little better.
Yeah, that was one of my questions for you was, since you did know Gaby beforehand, were you hoping to link up with her? So you just answered that. I'm also wondering, since Will went out at the first tribal, I could almost like read what you were thinking in that moment, just watching your facial expressions while the votes were being read. Because not only was Will blindsided, you were blindsided too in that vote.
Right.
So how were you feeling in that moment? Were you like, uh-oh, I'm screwed now?
Probably I didn't feel that as much as I should have. I usually have at least decent or pretty good reads. I had a lot of really bad reads on people this game. Because that happened and I was sitting there going, what the hell? Lilly came back to me and said, because everyone had agreed that it was going to be Victoria, that and that I think Alex would have been maybe the odd man out. I can't remember, but in any event, Lilly messaged me immediately and said, "Oh, I'm sorry. I thought he had an idol based on the way he looked during the tribal challenge," which actually, I'm not sure if that was the truth of the vote. It doesn't sound like it, but it was definitely a good read. I spoke to Greg and Simmons pretty soon after that, and it was very much, what the hell happened there, guys? And there was this very big sort of, oh, it was very last minute, and we didn't get around to you, and blah, blah, blah. And I, like a moron, bought into that, while they already had this, big alliance, an array of little alliances that in no way included me. So, yeah, it sent up some signals, but it probably should have sent up a lot stronger signals.
That's what I would think, but even like on tonight's episode, we hear you're still good with Greg. So I was
I thought, Greg, I love Greg, he's a great guy, but yeah, he totally sucker punched me. That was probably the worst read I ever had in any org I've ever played. But, again, good on him. He got locked in early. And I just wasn't invited to the dance. So my bad for not kind of figuring that out some more. But I think, once that 5 formed, and I was truly slightly oblivious about it, I think unless we won challenges, my fate was kind of sealed. Because it's funny looking back, it's, lying liars who lie. I mean, everybody told me, well, Alex really isn't talking to anyone. Victoria really isn't talking to anyone when we were talking about possible first boots. And I bought into that because I hadn't had the chance to have much communication with them either. So yeah, I just got played.
So moving way ahead to after Gaby gets voted out, and you find out about the twist with the captains, and Connor becomes the captain and Lauren becomes a captain, and you are chosen last. How were you feeling about that? Just, did it not faze you at all?
Again, I think both in Survivor in real life or on TV and orgs, I mean, people, especially early on, come in with perceptions. And one of those perceptions is the old guy's going to suck at challenges. And I think it's also, Victoria was at the end, and I think there are probably assumptions based upon, both that she's a woman and that she's a person of color that goes along the same road. And I mean, those perceptions are ingrained in words just as much as they are in the game itself. So yeah, it was no skin off my back, except for the fact that I knew I would a little bit need to scramble, but we also had a majority absent Exile Island, damn it. So I felt pretty comfortable with that.
Yeah, so you were with Lauren, Austin, Greg, Mackenzie, Victoria, Jim, and then yourself. How were you feeling about that tribe? You said you had majority, so you were feeling pretty good. Was there anyone maybe you weren't feeling good about on your tribe at that point?
Well, Mackenzie, for reasons, Mackenzie clearly wanted me out. I'm not 100% sure why, but she definitely made no bones about it, both before and after the wheel. And we have had some, I wasn't, with both Mackenzie and Austin, I wasn't feeling as though there was any way I could insert myself into their midterm or long-term plans. We just didn't connect. And so I pretty much knew that we were never going to work together.
Well, that was a correct read.
That was a correct read. I thought Jim and I did not get a chance. I thought Jim was definitely an opportunity because we had texted a little back and forth that, yeah, we're kind of out of the age demographic here. So, and I kind of felt like he felt on old Alexa that it was a little bit of there was a little bit of a bro alliance going on that was going to last longest. And well, I felt much better about my position than I should have. But we talked about the fact that, we had some similar issues or concerns in the game. And so we wanted to see about working together on that. We had a lot of talks, especially once Lauren was sent to Exile and it became a 3-3 shot. We had a lot of talk about trying to get about him flipping because he felt pretty comfortable with Mackenzie, not at all comfortable with Austin. And so I did a lot of work trying to get him to flip. And I had him, I swore I had him. I swore. I was convinced. And then at the last minute, the last part of the conversation, he said, well, I'm worried about Greg because I talked to Mackenzie, and Greg had a similar conversation with Mackenzie to try to get her to flip, which, of course, trying to get anyone to flip is what we'd want to do. But he was really, really, really apprehensive about Greg. And instead of, and I think at one point he basically asked me, well, if we work together, will you cut Greg? And I, once again, like an idiot, should have lied my ass off. And actually, it might not have even turned out to be a lie, and said I would cut him. And instead, I tried to bring the two together and have them bond so that we could be one big happy four once this flipped. And that was probably ultimately my biggest mistake. I really should have. I find it very difficult to lie in these games. I will kind of nod my head, or if you say something, I'm happy to let you think that I agree with it, but I'm not really good at flat out lying, which is a problem, obviously. And so, yeah, I didn't want to come out and say, yes, I'd slice Greg, because at that time I had no intention of doing so. Now, if I knew it was what was actually in my own best interest, I just would have slit his throat.
So, speaking of Lauren going to Exile and then it being 3-3, you said it would be more fun to go out on a rock draw than be voted out. Then you said maybe, unless it's me. So then you have the 4 people on the wheel. How were you feeling in that moment? Did you like have a feeling, oh gosh, it's about to be me, or?
A little bit. Again, you asked before, are you nervous? I mean, that was something I was nervous at that, but I was also very excited. I love Vegas. So, yeah, there was a little bit of twinge in my gut going, uh-oh. But, again, I thought I was in a situation, I thought I was in a better situation than I was. But I knew I was in a situation where, as long as that divide stayed, if Jim wasn't going to flip, then I was quick out the door anyway, because I did know by that time Greg wanted to work with Mackenzie and Austin. And so by close to the very end, my faith was starting to be shook a little bit. But so, I mean, for me, it was, I'm probably better off it being totally random and by luck than I am with, sticking around and having them vote off someone who I did trust. And yeah, it was fun. It's a game.
Hey, you threw out a little spice too, which I didn't catch when the game was actually happening. But when you said something like, Victoria, we've got this, I was like, ooh, I wonder how the others felt about that, like hearing you say that, because you were obviously rooting against them and wanted you and Victoria to move forward.
Oh, well, no, it was because by the time we got to the wheel, Greg was off the wheel. So it was going to be, if it were our side, it was going to be me or Victoria. And yeah, I mean, by that time, I was definitely rooting for it not to be me, Victoria, more than anybody else except for me.
Right. I was just surprised to hear you say it.
Oh, no, the lines had clearly been drawn by then.
Right.
I mean, Mackenzie and I, because I had that long conversation with Jim, and I really thought I had him. And then he said, well, I think I want to do this. I'm pretty much going to do this, but let me think about it a little bit more, and I will definitely let you know if I change my mind. And probably about half hour before tribal, yeah, I got a message from him saying, whoops, changed my mind. So, yeah, I was pretty confident that we were going to Rocks. What I should have done, another thing I should have done, is just got down and dirty beforehand and sort of re-raised the issues and tried to bring Jim back around to tribal council. I really should have gone through all the things that we had talked about in terms of whom it would be best for him to work with. But you know, by that time, I was psyched to do some gambling.
Well, I think Morgan has some questions for you as well.
Yes.
Sure.
So this is actually from Greg. So Greg asks, would you have benefited more from Victoria, Mackenzie, or Austin getting rocked out instead of you? So of those three, which one do you think would have benefited your game most?
Well, certainly not Victoria. At the time, I would have thought Austin. We had, just because of timing, we only got to have one conversation, and it was surprisingly, it just wasn't flowing. When I saw he was on there, I did want to work with him. It's just, I don't know why, but sometimes you have that first conversation and it's like, oh, there's nothing happening here. I had a couple of conversations with Mackenzie, and you know, she was Mackenzie, so very outgoing and very, very bubbly and very charismatic. Actually, which was why I think she was so focused on me, because I had said that to both Greg and Victoria, that, you know, long term, she's probably a danger because she is that personality. And part of me thinks one of them may have said that I said that because, yeah, she was, the first thing she said in the phone call, the last phone call I had with her just before tribal was, well, I hear you're targeting me. I said, nah. And she goes, well, you said I was all nice and bubbly and charismatic and stuff. You are nice and bubbly and charismatic and stuff. I'm sure people say that to you every freaking day. So, yeah, I think she misread that I was trying to target her. And we did do a lot of back and forth going as between Austin and Mackenzie, which one might have an idol or some other trick up their sleeve. And I think we thought the ultimate target, we ultimately voted for Jim, besides actually Greg having made some inroads with them, because we thought he was least likely to have something, and they were unlikely to play something on him.
Do you think that if Mackenzie had left instead of you, Jim would have been more likely to work with you after that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Within that 3, Jim's connection was with Mackenzie, without a doubt.
Yeah, I feel like Mackenzie leaving probably would have been the best for your game there. And then we had a question from Jay Milligan, who says, Bill, my friend, do you regret going to Rocks? What do you think your path was to the merge?
I don't regret going to Rocks. And I honestly, well, Morgan, you raised a good point, which has been floating around in the back of my mind then too. I mean, my best path to the merge would have been to either get Jim to flip or both Jim and I survive Rocks. Again, knowing what I know now, because my thinking was that if Jim and I were still there, then Austin would be odd man out amongst the 4. And, you know, by that time, I wasn't that worried about whatever prior relationship there might have been between Austin and Lauren, because I didn't know if it was like a 4-to-1 thing. I don't think she would have thought to save it. Now, again, as we learned, that may not have worked, because if Greg, I also don't think Greg would, I'm not sure Greg would have worked with Austin if Mackenzie were gone. So even sort of knowing what I know now, yeah, that would have been the best path for Mackenzie to go.
Morgan, was that the last question you had?
Yeah.
All right. So, Bill, give me one word to describe your game.
Clueless-ish.
Once again, hyphenated.
Hyphenated.
Well, listen, I loved watching you. I think you're so entertaining, and I don't think anyone could not like you, Bill. Like, you're just such a likable guy. Well, maybe Mackenzie in a game.
Mackenzie in a game. Yeah, I didn't even catch the "see you later, motherfucker" as I was going out the door. That went completely over my head. I'm like, oh, okay. But no, I really enjoyed meeting everyone who I got to meet since the game ended. I've gotten to talk to some other folks who I never got a chance to interact with. So yeah, it was great fun.
Yeah, that's the best part of these games.
Longer.
Just the connections and new friendships that you make, and some of them will literally last a lifetime. So I only have one more thing to say to you, and it's not peace out, motherfucker, but hey, Vegas, baby.
Vegas, baby. But I never play roulette, and now I know why.
There you go. Well, I appreciate you hanging out with us for a little while and answering our questions, Bill.
Bill, it was awesome
my pleasure.
It was awesome to watch you play, and we're glad that you were part of our cast. You brought a lot of life and laughter, and thanks for hanging out with us. It's been a lot of fun.
Yes, and yeah, thank you for this. This was great fun, and like I said, you guys put on a very good show, and it was hella fun.
Well, Bill, I'm going to echo what my two co-hosts said here. It was great to have you on the show. And yes, unhappily, you joined us here this evening. Bill,
thank you.
Any last words?
No, it's well, now that I've gone to Rocks once, it may be off my bucket list for good.
Yeah, that's a check. Yeah, what Denny did. Yep, that's it.
Yeah, been there, done that. I mean, I could stick around for go to Rocks and survive, but no, I don't think so. I'll just take this.
Love it.
All right, all. Well, thank you for joining us for the third exit interview of Survivor Exile Island for Bill McGrath. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Survivor Game Show Network, and to join our Facebook page so you don't miss any of the upcoming content.